Hey there, it's David from Bugeye Guy, and welcome. I wanted to do a quick overview, Bugeye Sprite Basics. So I'm just going to run you through the basic features of one of these cars. It's a video for the new owner of Maury. This is an incredible car. We're incredibly excited about this thing because it's superbly tight. It's a delight to drive. It's rattle-free. It has a new 1275 engine, 5-speed Ford transmission, rear disc brakes. It's just a great car, new tires, it's just delightful. But I wanted to share for the new owner the controls and some of the basics. If you're new to the world of Bugeye Sprites, this video will help you with some of those basics. So we'll start right out with the door. Very, very crude, very simple, and a very lightweight door. So you want to make sure you're not pushing down on the door when you close it or open it, because you will end up scoring the jamb here. So it doesn't take much, that's all you're looking for. A lot of these are out of adjustment, but that's one of the things we spend a lot of time getting right before our cars leave and go out into the world. So you're looking for something smooth like that. You don't want to be pushing on the paint. You'll leave fingerprints. You can grab right here. That's the basic of door operation. It's that simple. There's no lock, remember. Also tonneaus. This one has the long tonneau. It will leave it on here almost all the time on most of these cars, because you get to the supermarket or to the golf course or wherever you're going, you just pop out the tonneau and zip it up. But the one thing you want to be mindful of is that it can pinch right here on the door jamb. So we'll usually leave these unfastened on the first twist. You can see it right here set up that way, just so that it doesn't get pinched in the door. Okay, so jumping in, you want to make sure you don't grab the windshield right here, because you can break the glass on these. We've seen it before. These stanchions can break and will shatter the glass. Obviously that's a bad thing. So I'm going to probably put my hand on the seat and my other hand on the wheel, lower myself in. Sometimes people will sit down first and then throw their legs in, but I tend to just sort of put one leg in and slide in like that. I'm 5'8", so it just depends on your size. And there we go. Bodie is ready. Good job, Bodes. Anyway, to turn on this baby, one click of the key is all it takes. You don't twist this like a modern key, you'll break it. And we've had people do that. So it's just one click like this, and then this is the starter. It's that simple. I won't run it in here because we're inside and I don't want the fumes, but that's how you turn it on, that's how you turn it off, this is how you start it. Now, if it's cold, and if it's been sitting overnight, the choke comes out about that far, that richens the mixture. Then the same exercise, you pull the S knob and off you go. It's nice to get the choke in as quick as you can, because you can load up the spark plugs and foul them. So choke is great when you need it to start, but you don't want to overuse it. Couple other things, the gas gauge here, notoriously inaccurate. So you want to make sure you use your odometer to give you a sense. This is our electronic gauge suite. This is a GPS powered speedo. It gets its signal from here, and that gives you a much more accurate reading. This is an electronic tachometer. They're much brighter, but anyway, you use the odometer in here, which is GPS driven. And that way, if your gas gauge is inaccurate, you can cover. You're sort of looking for about 150 miles, maybe 200 miles, depending on what modifications you have between fill-ups. So, fuel gauge, odometer, this speedometer, because it's modern, also gives you altimeter and 0 to 60 time, a bunch of fancy functions, but the original one looks very similar. It doesn't have that button. Tachometer, of course, this is your indicator for the turn signals. So we have right and left, there's only one indicator. And we talked about the choke. This is the wiper. I'm gonna lift these off the glass just so I don't scratch the glass, but the wiper is a 1-speed affair on these, and in most cases it parks. So when you turn it off, it will park in that position. They don't all work, but that is something, when they were original, that's how they were designed. This is the side lights, S for side lights, and H for headlights. So that's your light switch. It's a common question we get, how do I turn the lights on? And then we have a dip switch. You see the blue light for high beam. The dip switch is down there to the left of the clutch, like in the old days. That was a common way to actuate the brights. You notice there's no stock mounted anything here. It's very simple, and that's how you operate the headlights. Off, park lights, headlights, dip switch, and then this is the heater blower, which you can hear roaring away. And this is a modern replacement switch that we sell in our catalog. It only works when the key's on. And the heater water valve is under the hood. I'll show you that. That's how you adjust temperature, but this increases air volume. There's one other adjustment that's worth knowing about. There's a little air flap here. Can you see that? This little, it may be hard to see, but there's a little air door on the side, and there's one on the driver's side that matches. And if you want more airflow on one side, you can, if I'm alone, I can close this. If I want Bodhi to be warmer, I'm going to close the driver's side and open the passenger side. And if I want defrost, and we use quotes for defrost, you close both of them, and wow, it's a Scirocco of wind. No, it's pretty much a joke. There is some air coming out, but it's nice to carry a rag if you're out in misty conditions. But anyway, that's the blower control. This one would be your washer pump, and we've fit a cigarette lighter that we sell in here. No, just kidding. That's for powering the GPS. This is a 5-speed car, so this one has first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. What a delight over there for overdrive. And these 5-speed cars, reverse, you push down and over and forward. So that's how you get into the reverse gate, is by pushing the shift knob downward. And that's reverse. Okay, that's pretty much all you need to know about the cockpit. And again, I'll put my hand here a lot, but I caught myself. You just don't want to pull hard. And then, other issues. We have lots and lots of people who overflow the fuel here. So you want to be really careful with this. When you fill this, is a 7-gallon tank, and it will shut off automatically. If you top it up and you're careless, you will overflow fuel, and you have the risk of melting the paint here. We've had a couple customers do that. Remember, we sent about 350 cars like this out into the world, so we've seen some of the chronic problems, and we've also tried to innovate where we can to address them. But this is one that's all about the consumer. We have to be really careful with this. And if you fill it up, I'll go to the front and start showing you that. But if you fill it up and park it in the sun, it will overflow and trash the paint. So make sure that if you fill it, you drive it a few miles first. Opening the nose. There's a twist latch right here. It's a T-handle. That's if you have a conventional factory design. So you twist this, and when it's correct, it's in line to open and perpendicular to the direction of travel to close. So you twist it to open. You grab both sides of the nose. You try to use your legs because it's heavy. Push the whole assembly up and then let it back down. To lower it, off the latches and lower it down. So we want to take a look under the hood. There we go. So, a couple key things about under the hood. First of all, heater control that I mentioned. This is the temperature gauge. Isn't that fancy? No computerized digital readout with a fancy thing on your dashboard. This is hot, this is cold. That's all you get. And so if you want to adjust the heat, you open and close it there. This is the master cylinder for the brake fluid for your clutch and brakes. And this level inside here is probably one of the most important things in the whole car. And the reason for that is that this is what's driving the clutch and brakes. And people pick on the electrics on these cars all the time, but it's actually the hydraulics that we do the most work with. This is a new master cylinder, new slave cylinder, new wheel cylinders, if it had them. It happens to be rear calipers in this case. Calipers are great because they last a lot longer. But if this level goes down, you got a leak somewhere. It doesn't evaporate. It doesn't go away mysteriously. It only leaks out. And if this starts to go down, it's very common to have a bad slave cylinder. You start losing fluid, that's your early warning sign. We have a train coming. So I'll move over to this side. Your battery, in this case, on our cars, they're all extremely well secured. But if you're out there watching this and you have a Bugeye, just make sure this is tight, because we've had these terminals move into the metal cable that's often here, or into this metal cable which controls the choke. And you can, if you have, it's usually the ground on this side, but we've seen all kinds of crazy battery configurations. And I had one car where this hot lead grounded on a metal cable and started to smolder, and so you can burn down your car that way. A nice secure battery is a good thing, and you'll notice this one is really anchored quite well. The oil dipstick is over here on this side. You want to keep an eye on this. All these cars leak oil. It's very hard to leak a quart of oil. That's pretty rare, but they burn oil too, even the brand new engines. So when you get one of these cars, you really want to become familiar with its particular oil consumption. Some of them might even burn a quart of oil every 250 miles. Some of them might take 1,000 miles. It really just depends. We've seen quite an array of variation in terms of oil consumption, but they all burn oil and they all leak oil. So you want to just get to know your own particular car. These are the carburetor dampers. This one is a little tight, which is good because sometimes they can loosen up. You want to check these every once in a while. The oil level, there's a little shelf here. You want the oil to be at that level. And that's generally 20 weight oil, nothing fancy. All you're looking for is that damping that you feel right there. You could see as I push it in, it doesn't move in rapidly because the oil damps it. And then you want this to be not cross-threaded. You want it properly threaded and good and tight so that it can't loosen up. So under the hood, you shouldn't have to do much. Well, on our prepared cars, we're going over everything to make sure everything is done right. And we send out our cars, we've really carefully gone over all of these components to make sure you won't have any issues down the road. Of course, they're old British cars, so they have their quirks, but we're looking for everything. A lot of these heater valves and hoses are cracked and worn, so we've changed all that here. But in terms of maintenance, if you're not one of our customers, hydraulic fluid is critical, as I said earlier, because if it leaks or lowers, you've got a leak that you need to address. For example, if you have drum brakes in the back and it starts to leak from the wheel cylinders, you'll trash the shoes and lose the rear brakes. So a lot of the cars that come in here have no rear brakes. They still stop, and they stop reasonably well because the front brakes are doing most of the work, but they stop a lot better with working rear brakes, and better still with rear discs. But this is your early warning sign. There's no idiot light that lights up. You gotta look at that once in a while and make sure you're on top of it. Your oil, you wanna make sure you're on top of that. I was talking to a guy selling a car the other day. We noticed when he ran it for me that the oil pressure was a little low. Took out the dipstick, he was 3 quarts low. It's probably been 3 quarts low for the last 5 years. So that's all because we've become consumers who are used to things that just work perfectly for 100,000 miles. And that's great. I mean, I have a modern car as well that behaves that way, but with an old British car like this from 1960, you need to be a little bit more involved in the maintenance. Our job is to make that as pain-free as possible. We've done that here, but hopefully these are some maintenance suggestions and some operation suggestions that will help you. Thank you for watching our videos and for participating in our little Bugeye Sprite revolution. It's really been a pleasure, and that's all I have today from Bugeye Guy.